So I just get off work and I'm looking through Instagram and YouTube, just kind of see if there's anything new in the MMA community right now. And wouldn't you believe it, we might have just got another banger to add to UFC 297. Now this is crazy because, Dana White was on the Nelk Boys podcast, I think Full Send podcast, that's what it's called. And it was in the studio, and normally in the background you can see like a board with all the fights that are being made. And as the camera's kind of panning around, it focuses on Kevin Holland, established fighter, versus Michael Venom Page. Michael Venom Page is going to be in the UFC. And all I'm going to say is now, I know PFL just bought out Bellator, and everyone's talking about that, like, oh, now they're competition. And yes, I do think that they are going to be more of competition now. But I still think UFC is going to be better. One championship is most likely still, like, slightly better. There was something about their business thing where they're losing a lot of money, which I don't know. I don't really know if these guys with that. But UFC might have just snapped the biggest star from Bellator. Like, when I was getting into MMA, which was around, the first, like, actual, like, card I fully watched was, I believe, 257, which was Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2, because it was the return of Conor McGregor, and everyone knew who Conor McGregor was. I even knew who he was, and I watched that card, and then I was like, okay, that's kind of when then I had to learn, like, okay, MMA is the sport, UFC is the promotion. It's like football is the sport, NFL is the promotion for that. And then I just learned there's Bellator, and I'm like, okay, now I gotta, like, pay attention to that. And the only real name that, for a while, that was in my head were two guys. Patricio Pitbull, just because he's considered, like, the greatest, maybe one of the greatest fighters from there. Or, sorry, I knew three fighters. Him, Michael Chandler, because they were talking about Michael Chandler during broadcast, because he was the co-main event for UFC 257. So it's those two, and then it's Michael Venom Page. Now, Michael Venom Page has never been champion in Bellator. He has challenged for their undisputed title once, and he fought for the interim title. Both of them he lost in it, but even with that, he is an entertaining fighter. This tall dude, I think he's like 6'2" in the welterweight division, which welterweight for Bellator was probably one of their better divisions. So he was still a top guy there. Flashy striking, he's got like taekwondo, he does all these like crazy stuff in that. A little bit of it's cringe, but it's entertainment, so like I'm not going to complain of that. But he was like the well-known name from them. That's the guy that they would have wanted. If they could have picked any of their fighters to be champion, it would have been Michael Venom Page. And now he's in the UFC, and he's fighting literally the UFC's version of Michael Venom Page and Kevin Holland, because both of them, these tall, long dudes, was it Kevin Holland? He moved down. He used to fight at middleweight, moved down to welterweight, was on a win streak, lost to Hamza on short notice, and Stephen Thompson gets 2 wins in a row. Really good wins, by the way. And then he loses to Jack Della Maddalena. No shame in that. But he just always fights. And he so consistently fights, and it's amazing. And I'm so happy these guys are going to be fighting, because this just makes UFC 297 it's just that much better. And I just can't talk about how excited I am for this. And I think this is probably one of those fighters that PFL would have wanted to have, because just having him on there, and they could have bullshitted a thing. Well, because with their like system, they could have just made him fight some like weaker guys just to build him in and just get those numbers up with that. Because PFL monetarily, like on their Instagram things, they get almost no interaction unless it's the finals. Like, no, I feel like people really like. I watched a bit of PFL just to like. I'm like, okay, what's the skill difference in this, and like production wise, and it made me appreciate the UFC a bit more. But I watched their PFL finals just because I'm like, it's several title fights, and it was overall really good. I enjoyed it. They always do good for the finals from that. But that would have been one of the guys that they would have wanted, because if they could have gotten that guy to keep winning and all that stuff for the cards, make it to the finals at least, just engagement-wise, that would have been good, because they don't do good with their engagement. Their Instagram is not good. The only real times they've blown up is when they signed Francis Ngannou, and I say blow up for that, but like, it was popular because it's like, oh shit, he did, but like, we kind of knew that was going to happen. And then Jake Paul signing was the main thing of that, and that's almost 100% to do with Jake Paul on that. So, they need like stars of that, because really almost none of the people in like PFL of like before signing Bellator had a personality. Like, there's guys in there like oh my god, Oliver Aubin Mercier. I like him. I was happy with that. I think he's retired now, which I hope he enjoys retirement. all that. He was nice, but he didn't really have any personality that, like, interested me with that. But, like, I mean, interesting guy. I mean, like, good fighter, just all of that, former UFC fighter, and, like, 2-time winner back-to-back, just all that stuff. But, like, it wasn't enough to, like, I guess, just sell crazy. Like, he was their main headliner. Like, every time he fought, it was a headlining thing. And, like, yeah, he got finishes. He did really good. Just not super popular with that. I kind of hope he doesn't, because he said he might retire. I want to see the Bellator champions versus PFL, because if they just do a card that's not tournament function of champion versus champion, I would watch that. I'd maybe, because, like, all of them, like, yeah, I don't watch Bellator, just because their production is probably one of the worst I had seen in a long time of that, and there's always just, like, a lot of boring fights on there, because, like, the UFC, like, underratedly, they know how to make fights that can get excitement for, like, main card stuff. They're big headliners. They are good at doing that, like, for the most part. Bellator it's just unlucky, but just with MVP, if they would have had MVP, that would have been really good, but now they don't have them, so I said that that isn't going to do anything crazy for the UFC right now, but it's something the fans have wanted. Us fans have wanted Michael Venom Page in the UFC for a long time, and yes, he's an older guy. He's like 35, 36, I believe. He's an older dude, which sucks for that, but, like, he at least isn't in, like, the lower weight classes where that matters even more. I hope he eventually will just move up to middleweight, so the weight cut or any of that stuff won't be as bad. But I'm going to give an early prediction right now. I think Kevin Holland would win. Just activity-wise, Michael Venom Page hasn't fought often. His last one was, I believe his name, like, Goiti Yamaguchi, and that was, like, a first-round, like, accidental leg break for Goiti Yamaguchi. I didn't see the fight, but I heard it. There's that. The BKFC fight he had with Mike Perry, with that, which he lost. And then his loss to Johnny Eblin. No, not Johnny Eblin. That's the middleweight champion. I don't remember. It's something Story. I don't remember his name. But he got, like, held on for that. And I just think Kevin Holland's activity, and he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter. Like, yeah, he's got losses with that, but they're against, like, good fighters. One of them is against Hamzat Chimaev on a day's notice with that. So I just think he's going to win in general with that. I think he's been in the UFC long enough to, like, he doesn't really get nervous about being in the bright lights. And Michael Venom Page, I don't think is going to be nervous about the bright lights. But I guess there's just a difference between a Bellator card and a UFC card. You know what I mean? UFC 297. People are going to be watching that because that's where Ian Gary's going to be on that, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's the Ian Gary one is on it. You're going to have a bunch of these guys on there. All these title fights with that. Just Colby Covington versus Leon Edwards. 2 welterweight contenders. If these two are on the press conference with that, that's going to be crazy, just with all these welterweights on the card, because it's him, it's Kelvin Gastelum's on, he's moving down to welterweight again. Him versus Kelvin Gastelum versus Michael Venom Page. I would love that fight. That's another fight I'd want. No matter win or lose for either, I hope Kelvin Gastelum, if he decides to stay at welterweight, which I think he should, because he's very undersized at middleweight, even if he loses to Sean Brady, I hope he stays there, and I hope he fights Michael Venom Page, just because that would be so entertaining, and it'd just be an interesting fight. But I'm going to go Kevin Lee right now. I'm going to say third round TKO, because MVP has been chinned before. He got chinned by Douglas Lima, 3-time Bellator champion. So I think it can happen again. Kevin Lee he's got weird angles for his striking with that. He can submit, he can do all that stuff. So, but I'm gonna be excited for this fight, and it's gonna be awesome.